Hello, good afternoon. I'm live. Louisiana beer reviews on my alternative channel, Anti-War. So today on Anti-War, Louisiana beer reviews, St. Arnold Art Car IPA, introduced in 2015. When I first had it, it was in the bottle. 7.1% alcohol, 55 bitterness units. Brewed in Houston, Texas by St. Arnold Brewing Company, founded in 1994, Texas's oldest craft brewery. Let's see if it'll focus a little bit. Doesn't seem. Rare backup channel stream. Yeah, I do it sometimes, You're enjoying drinking some Chardonnay tonight. Oh, good. Hello, Joe Cobb. 7.1. Yep. Man, this thing does not want to focus. Finally. I have some trouble with it, but I paid a lot. There's another guy that does videos, and his camera seems to be even worse with that bad behavior. And he told me he paid $89, and I paid like $30. So it has trouble focusing when it's dark. Actually, let me show you the first. It's orange. It's mostly clear. You might see some bubble streams. I don't know. There's a lot of chill haze on the glass. And there's a thick off-white head. It's 97. Oh, you like the picture quality? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I washed my hair. It's fresh. Okay. Got to do a haircut. Time for a haircut at the end of the month, I think. But anyway, so now you see what the beer looks like. See, when I have the lights on, it'll focus better. It's like the dark confuses the computerized camera. Okay, see, you can pick it up better. So probably something to do with light. Okay, so St. Arnold, patron saint of brewers, hardcore India Pale Ale, 7.1% alcohol. 55 IBUs. Multi-hoppy, range, hoppy, high, body, mid. Ingredients. Malted barley, 2 row ale, Caro 45, and Caro foam malt. The hops used during the boil, HBC 682, Cascade, and Simcoe are reminiscent of the West Coast style and provide high notes. A generous dry hopping of Amarillo, Simcoe, and Mosaic brings out the tropical mango and citrus aromatics. Introduced in 2015, and they explain why they call it Art Car. They're behind it. Availability, draft, cans, and bottles, year-round. I found this fresh at Walmart, and it was $9.49 US for the 6-pack. They give, for every beer they sell, an introduction and a rundown just like that. They give a good technical rundown. It's not a bunch of, hype and idiocy. You really can't stand old IPAs. Oh, we're opposite there. I can't stand the new one. Yeah. I know you're talking about the beer having a nice head of foam, being fresh. It is fresh, relatively fresh. Should not be quite. It's going to be bitter. If I had beers like 70 IBU, but it doesn't have all that off bitter taste if it's fresh. Really can't stand OPA. Old IPAs. Oh, you mean the shelf date? Yeah, they don't hold up so well. Okay, time. You meant the shelf date. Okay, I thought you meant the old style. All right. Very malty, white bread, white bread crust. I say it all the time, but that's what it smells like. If I say it smells like barley, how many people go around smelling barley? You know what I'm saying? No, I mean, but white bread crust, white bread, yeah, most people eat that, so they know. Hops, you say it smell like pine cones and things like that, they can relate. Most people don't go around smelling hops, so it would be like speaking a foreign language to them. I have smelled hops, so I know what they smell like. Smell like this beer. It's a strong, piney, vegetable. It's hard to describe. Dank aroma. Taste. Cheers. It's juicy. It's bitter. The body's medium, like they say. The finish is dry. Look at the lacing on the glass. Heavy lacing. I think it's a good price, $9.49. They had a different store. I won't name them. Don't want to shame them. They were $9.99, and those beers were woefully out of date. Woefully out of date. So $1.58 a beer. $1.58 per IPA. Yes, yes, yes. I was paying that price 2010 when I started reviewing beers. I would think that was a good, in 2010, I would say that's a good price for a sample, a single. I used to pay more than that in 2010. Okay, 2011, 2010, 2011. Some IPAs get very pricey and I don't buy them because I've bought them in the past and half the time they don't measure up and I feel like I got cheated. I saw a bunch of new ones come in the store recently, $15.99 a 4-pack. And I was like, nah, I know what it's going to taste like because I know that company. I know what their stuff tastes like. It's always the same. It's like the same taste in a different can. That looks, yeah, thank you. It was a great price this day and age. Now I can remember when I first started buying IPAs, usually they'd run $7.49 for a 6-pack of good ones. $7.49, occasionally $6.99 if you found like a Beta because they're local. You could find a Beta Giacomo IPA for $6.99, but $7.49, and then they slowly over the last 15 years crept up. Now up to $9.49. Sometimes you can find good ones $8.99. The higher the alcohol, the more taxes here in Canada. I don't think that applies to the United States, actually. Well, to my state. Each state's got their own set of laws, so I can't really say. 4.95 to 500 milliliters. It's 10.2. Yikes. I'd be scared of that one. Flying Monkeys Sparkle Puff Triple IPA. I remember I read all the Wizard of Oz, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz novels, and they had the winged monkeys in that book. They called them the winged monkeys. But they might have trademark on that. Whoever has a trademark on that book, if it's still under trademark, you'd have to say something different, like in that case, flying monkeys. It's really something you should share with someone. Yeah. Oh, the Wizard of Oz. Okay. But yeah, like I say, that some of those, like I say, winged monkeys might be trademarked. Or maybe they thought they were called flying monkeys, but they were actually called, if you read the book, they're called winged monkeys. In the movie, they don't call them anything. But they show up to they look more like apes in the movie, but they had tails, right? They do have tailless monkeys without tails, though. I saw some, and I even touched one in Gibraltar. At 10.2 and 500 milliliters is basically like 3/4 of a bottle of wine. Yeah, that's a little much. I can't. How can I say anything? Because I will so many times take a 500, 473 milliliter can at 12%. 473 milliliters, 12%, and drink it. So I mean, that's just asking for it. And then later on in the day, I'm like, oh, I feel like I took medicine. I feel like I took medicine. Well, in a way, I did. Not a good feeling. Okay, so this beer is great. Definitely going 9.5 on it. So does Texas make most excellent India Pale Ales and other craft beers? They sure do. And this company is even more famous for their stouts. They're extremely strong stouts. But look, they have pumpkin beers. They have a pumpkin stout. They have pumpkin imperial stouts. They come in at 11%, doggone 13.6, even sometimes 14.5, around September, October. But you better watch those things. You won't drink too many of those because they're like $6.99 a bottle. $6.99 for 355 milliliter bottle. Even if you were an old problem drinker, if you were a problem drinker, you wouldn't do it because it'd be too expensive. You'd say, "Oh no, I'll buy some hooch or something." I don't know. I guess that's what you would do. But I love the rich flavor. They're so amazing, when you try them. I find the IPA scene is very overloaded with mediocre beers. Boy, isn't that true? Everything is extremely filtered to appeal to the masses. Well, sometimes it's not filtered. It's extremely unfiltered, and it still tastes terrible. When I was drinking them, I like the unfiltered ones. Okay, so I prefer the filtered ones, but filtered, unfiltered, if it tastes good, is what I like. And I got too many of them I'm running across that you pay an A price, or in some cases an A plus price, and you're getting a B product. Sometimes worse. C. We did one last week. It was C plus. Look, man. Look, if I pay an A plus price and I get a B, I'm angry. I'm really angry. And I'll never buy it again. And then I'm reluctant to buy anything else from the company. A red stout was invented in England, even though it's known as Irish thing nowadays. But yeah, dark beer is a great sipper. Yeah, I think they were invented in England because they came from porters. But porters were sort of concurrently developed in England and Ireland because, remember, they used to be part of the same union, the United Kingdom, from 1801 till 1922 at least. Over 100 years. And of course, Northern Ireland is still part of the union. So good beer is a good beer. Enough said. True. Thank you. Oh, talking about the British Commonwealth, I read an article yesterday, and I know it's a legitimate article because it was written by the government of Australia. Government of Australia. What was the name of that? It might have been the Office of Parliamentary Information. It's some kind of, they give you information about the Parliament. And I'm sure nobody ever reads that. You say, you're the only weirdo in the world that reads that stuff. You're eccentric. Nobody reads these government documents. I know. But it is information service. So I was reading about their constitution, and they were talking about King Charles III. And they were saying that there's an article in the Constitution, I think it was number 59 or something. I don't remember. That's not important. You can look that up. But it was saying that part of the Constitution of Australia says that King Charles, or just the king, you know what I mean, the monarch, but at the present, King Charles III, he can annul any law passed by the Australian Parliament within 1 year of it being adopted. So once the governor general signs it or assents to it, maybe they shake their head, yes, it's a law. But there's 12 full months that it is allowed that the king could annul the law. But they said no British monarch has ever done that in the whole history of Australia. They've never exercised that right. Well, they live across the ocean in another side of the world. They're not sitting there looking through what Australia's doing day to day. And anyway, why would they want to do that? It's like, what would be the purpose of it? Unless there's some outrageous law, like saying bringing back slavery or something. But you know what I mean? But they've never done it, even though they said that is part of their law, actually. True. I believe, let's see. I believe Canada has something similar to that as well. I don't think it's ever been used. I think there was a time that the governor general had rejected a few laws back in like 1905 or 1921 or something. But that was a long time ago, and I don't know if he did it just because he thought it was a bad law, or because the British government in London was saying, tell him, to veto that law. But now it hasn't been done since then. Governor General has a lot of power in Canada, but most people not into politics don't realize it yet. Well, now they don't do that out front. They just do it behind the scenes. Like, they don't say, I'm going to veto this law. They'll just go behind the scenes and say, do you think that's a good law to pass? Even the king had asked about it. Not telling them they can't pass the law. They didn't say it. They say, do you think that's a good law to pass? And even the king had asked about it. But the next thing you know, they'll say, well, we're going to table this bill, but we might bring it up next year. You never see it again. They call that soft power. They say in England, and they use soft power, the royal family. And there's a whole bunch of articles about that. Very interesting. Our president uses hard power. They're out front and getting people angry all the time, but they don't do too much. Oh, well, I guess they do a lot of behind the scenes stuff too, naturally, but they kind of out front getting people all riled up, giving their opinions, just like, oh, I don't think that's a good. True, it's all done behind closed doors. They say, if you pass this, I will veto it, so don't pass it. I don't even think they say that. They just say, what is a Canadian constitutional expert? They said a king has a right to be informed, he has a right to advise, and he has a right to warn. Informed. Here's what the bill is. Oh, okay. Advise. I think that's a bad idea. Warn. I'm warning you not to pass that. Now, that's it's pretty important, right? I'm warning you not to pass that. Now, they might say, what does he mean? My child needs a scholarship, and they control the They control the scholarships. Yeah, England has perfected getting their way without people knowing it. Right. Everything on the down low. Yeah, if you get into the warning phase, you're in hot water. Yeah. I don't think it ever gets to that stage. They probably just do the questioning part. You think this is a good idea? Well, we're going to see about it. But in the United States, of course, we still get vetoes, presidential vetoes. They're not too common, though. Cause too much controversy. And I think, who was the president that vetoed the most? Grover Cleveland. Over 600 bills he vetoed, I think, over 600 bills. He was constantly getting into it with the Congress. They were like at, and he was just like Trump, the only president to ever get elected and then elected another time later down, not in order, not in consecutive terms. So Grover Cleveland got elected, then he was gone for 4 years and he got elected again. And Trump did the same thing. And I guess he's sort of like Grover Cleveland, controversial, Okay. This beer is awesome, and that's enough talk about politics. No, the people in that high level of a job likely know how it works. Right, you're right. They're not going to be like aloof to that. I was looking at the British Parliament. Now, I know nobody reads this stuff, but some controversial former movie star who did YouTube channel but got banned or whatever, but he was talking about, do you know that they have to me, I think he's crazy, I think he's loony, but even a lunatic can be right sometimes. So he was saying, did you know that they had to let the palace in England know if they're going to pass a bill, like submit a bill or something? I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. I said, but I'm going to check on him because he might just be, maybe he took too much medicine or something today or something. So I looked it up. Well, it was true. He was right. There's a pamphlet they give out, probably internet pamphlet now, but it was an actual pamphlet. You fold it up, and it was given to every new member of Parliament in England. It was called out something like how to interact with the palace when proposing laws, and it got like a preface. You're a new member of Parliament. You may want to submit a bill. Here's what you do. And it was like, the palace should be contacted at least 3 weeks before you submit this bill to the committee so that they can review it and give you feedback. And then it goes on and on, like, I was like, well, if somebody's a figurehead, why would you? I'm like, well, wait a minute. If somebody's just a figurehead and just waves at parades, why would you have to submit a bill 3 weeks beforehand before you submit it to the committee, like the education committee or labor committee, so that the palace could review it? And I was like, why would they have to review it? I was like, okay, well, you say, oh, it's just a formality. A formality? That's a damn complicated formality. Okay. Butch Willie says, hello to you, Butch. Joe Cobb said, that is wild, but I'm sure if other countries still had their monarchies, they would also have similar processes. Well, I was looking at the Canadian website one day, so that got me curious, so I was looking on Canada, and they had the Privy Council office, because in every Commonwealth realm, the king has a privy council. It's this private council that advises him on the law. You say, well, that's just a formality. I get it, but they meet every week. It's a formality. And then the Privy Council office has their own staff. And then they had this extremely complicated website. It's like how to get a bill submitted. What is the role of the Privy Council office? Here's what you need to do if you need to contact the Privy Council office. And I'm like, well, something's telling me that don't sound like a formality. So hidden money. Oh, yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about hidden money. All right. Yeah. Okay. Last comments and we out of here. I'm going back to the main channel. Yeah, the idea that they are just figureheads is not the whole story. I also read the royal family does not have to make their wills public. The thing that got me all like cracked up and amused was that when the Queen said she's going to pay taxes. The Queen is going to pay taxes. And my students even jumped up during the class, because we used to teach geography. We had to learn about every country, and they said, she's paying taxes to herself. I said, right. But it sounds good on BBC television, and in the newspapers. Okay, well, y'all take care. This beer is awesome. It gets you going, gets you thinking, gets you talking about stuff. I love talking about government. Well, I made a job out of that. I used to get paid to talk about government, and it was actually good money. To tell you the truth, these teachers lie. Teachers unions are good at lying. They make you think they're barely making it. Oh, we're barely making it. We don't get paid anything. They lie so much. But it was easy. Well, it was hard a lot of times. It's a very hard job, but it was good money. I don't say easy money, but good money. Take care, Ron. Enjoy the rest of your week. You too. I'll see y'all on the other channel. We're jumping over there right about now. How was my students in general? Mostly behaved. But you get some maniacs in there, a couple little psychopaths. Easy for you, but you had a passion. Well, like I said, it was a hard job, but it was easy in some ways. The teaching part was easy because you liked the subject. You teach what you like. It comes natural. But the students could pick up on that. And so then the administration liked me because I would have like 95% of the students pass the class. Very rare I would have anybody fail. And I didn't give away grades. I would tell them, I'll say, if anybody ever thinks I'm giving you a grade, we'll go to war with them because they had to earn it. I didn't play games. If you wanted to fail, you could fail. Go ahead, fail, get an F, repeat it, or drop out of school. No one's going to really care. I used to tell them that if you drop out, no one's really going to care. But they'll make it seem like they care. They'll do all that propaganda. I said, but honestly, you really think something's going to happen? Ain't nothing going to happen. I say, but why be stupid and do that? I would tell them that. I always respected my teachers when I could tell they wanted to teach. Right. And then you got the slackers who just want up there for the paycheck. I knew that when I was in school. I knew who was for real and who was hacking it out. All right, well, y'all take care now. Bye-bye. See you in like seconds.